year was 2047. And this is all that was left. The great space wars between the Muscafarians and the Bezosites had depleted Earth of all its natural resources. The Bitcoin virus and Uber's robot chauffeurs had finished the job. The only signs that humans had ever been here were the ramshackle buildings and the windmills that kept spinning and spinning with nothing to power. Everyone had abandoned Earth. Everyone, except for this man. He was known as MOLNAR. And he tore shit up. There's a modicum of truth in all of this. If you want to know what the world will look like when it's a rundown mess, you can head to the Mojave Desert. It's here that you'll find some of the world's greatest, or at least most eccentric inventors.
This craft is the sexy beast.
Pushing machines to their limits. It's a place that froths with engineering passion and that offers total freedom to relentless tinkerers. Join me on a road trip across the Mojave, from Los Angeles all the way to Las Vegas, as we meet people trying to change the future of cars.
We are self-driving.
And to make space cheap and easy.
We're working on point-to-point travel one day.
All on this episode of Hello World. Silicon Valley may be home to some of the biggest tech giants in the world, but it's being challenged like never before. Crazy tech geniuses have popped up all over the planet, making things that will blow your mind. My name is Ashlee Vance. I'm an author and journalist, and I'm on a quest to find the most innovative tech creations and meet the beautiful freaks behind them. Hello, world. This is the Los Angeles that everyone knows. It's people hanging out on Venice Beach, killing some time, watching skateboarders, getting a henna tattoo, sweet, and eating a low-carb lunch. As the sun warms your body and visions of Kardashians bounce around in your head. But there's a part of LA that I've always liked more. For decades, LA has been home to two thriving communities of builders. The people who design cars and the people who build spaceships. Many of them work in polished studios and massive industrial buildings. But the man I'm looking for works in a place like this.
DEZSO, how are you? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
This is MOLNAR, and this is where he keeps his toys.
So when we're driving slow, we keep the landing gear down, and then once we hit the freeway and we're in second gear, I'll bring the wheels up. So don't freak out when you hear that sound.
DEZSO used to fly planes in the Air Force. Then he built rockets and rocket-powered cars. He's been in some bands, he's been rich, he's been poor. He's a free spirit who does whatever he wants. Like a lot of Angelinos, DEZSO often finds himself stuck for hours on the freeway, wishing there was a way to rise up and escape from the concrete prison.
This is my first attempt at a flying car. In probably 2003, I felt pretty trapped in LA one day, so I started thinking about what the flying car could do for me.
In the hierarchy of nerd needs, the flying car remains a must-have. DEZSO, though, doesn't see himself as an inventor for the people. He's out for himself and the other select few willing to live life on the edge.
You don't think people think you're crazy? It's like, here comes the flying car guy again.
The flying car as a development has often been mired in the idea that you have to make something for everybody and that you have to dumb it down so that it's a consumer product to cut a few seconds off of somebody's commute. I don't have the objective about creating ubiquity. Da Vinci did one copy of the Mona Lisa, and it wasn't for everybody, and it wasn't like you had to make 500 of them, but it still has value. And I see a lot of the machines that have been made as art pieces. And I think what they need is a gallery right now to help drive the interest in the development.
To drum up that interest, DEZSO soon plans to start a flying car racing league in the Mojave Desert. There's a long-standing marriage between LA and the Mojave. It's in LA where engineers go about their day jobs in fancy offices. And it's in the Mojave where the folks who can never stop experimenting go to try out their ideas on the weekends.
Mojave is sort of what? It's like the playground for the test bed.
It's about the people you want to meet as opposed to people that you don't need. Those are the freaks, you know, that matter to me, are the ones that want to go out there and take their 300-mile-an-hour jet car out on a Saturday afternoon or whatever.
All right, I'll see you with the freaks.
Okay. And you can join the club.
Mojave is about a 2-hour drive into the California desert from Los Angeles. And most of that time is spent staring at bumpers.
God, this traffic sucks!
You deal with this, and yes, a flying car seems like a great idea. But as we made our way out into the inventor Badlands, the reality of zipping across the desert in a loose assembly of metal pipes and good intentions felt somewhere between stupid and terrifying. The truth, though, is that much of this technology is tried and true. The first part of DEZSO's flying car plan hinges on this gyrocopter. These types of vehicles have been flying since the 1920s. They're cheap, relatively easy to build, and pretty reliable. Instead of running on a motor, the propeller gets its lift from the wind as the craft goes forward.
Incredible, man. It's crazy. You just get like this totally different perspective.
If the engine cuts out, the copter would just flutter down to the ground, like a leaf falling out of a tree.
My adrenaline was pumping right before we took off, but you know, like the second we were in the air, I mean, you just...
Yeah, there's a lot to see, and it's pretty here.
Sort of forget about it all, yeah.
And as you saw, I mean, obviously we can land anywhere out here.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect place.
The gyrocopter takes care of the up part of the flying car puzzle. But you still need something to deal with the roads. For that, DEZSO has this slick concept vehicle. The goal is to marry the two and have something that turns just about any road into a runway. When that happens, okay, if that happens, the select few willing to give it a go will taste freedom, while the rest of us rot on the 405.
I think that the reality is that a lot of people in this world like to have some kind of an advantage in life, no matter what they're doing, whether it's a bigger stereo or a swimming pool at their house. But the reality is that in nature, all birds can walk, all bugs that fly have legs, and they can fold their wings up on their back. They survive in different environments because they've adapted to get through them. To say that we're going to spend 40 billion hours a year in the United States sitting in traffic saying that, well, no one will ever have one of these, I don't really care if that's the party line. You can make something that will allow you to escape this ridiculous ant line of eternity.
Next, I head to a spiritual oasis in the desert.
You get a chance to find out who you really are and what you really like.
And check out the home of the New Space movement with Richard Branson.
The important thing is to make sure it's safe, and we offer return tickets, not single tickets.
For any successful spirit quest, engineering-based or otherwise, you're gonna want to get yourself a shaman. I found a spirit guide who calls himself Ricky Ricardo, the proud and wonderfully eccentric owner of this desert compound. It's a spot that's cut off from civilization, but right in the middle of a trans-dimensional energy vortex. Or something like that.
This was actually many, many years ago. This was an actual Indian crossing. All around here is just like a treasure trove of arrowheads and artifacts. It's amazing.
Ricky has a house in LA, but he spends most of his time here, hanging out with the other desert rats and feeling free.
Back in '93, my partner and I went to Burning Man. Amazing, changed my life. I said, well, geez, why can't I expand that 2 weeks into a whole year? I decided to live my life like that.
Ricky worked for years on Hollywood productions, and he likes to invite friends and complete strangers out for massive desert raves. The art installations from past parties dot his land. Mostly, though, he's out here writing his great American screenplay, alone and off the grid.
Does this phone work?
Yeah, if you're talking to yourself.
Maybe that's what it takes to make it out here in Mojave. Some introspection.
That's what takes up more of your time than anything, I think, when you're out here is that conversation with God kind of thing, you know. It goes back to the saying, if you really like yourself, you really don't have a problem because you get a chance to really explore the depths of your own person, you know, to find out who you really are and what you really like.
Not everyone comes to the desert to find God. Some come for the simple pleasure of blowing stuff up. And just down the road from Ricky, these people have created their own temple to destruction. This is the stomping ground of FAR, or the Friends of Amateur Rocketry. All sorts of people come here to blow stuff up, from hobbyists right up onto the big boys like SpaceX. About 15 years ago, a group of amateur rocketry enthusiasts decided to buy their own plot of land. Today, hordes of university students have turned up to fire off their year-end projects.
Where's that flathead at? I got you. Keep that pressure on.
The kids are all members of SEDS, or the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. This group of about 100 kids hopes to make history.
If we're successful here today, we'll be the first students in the world to launch a rocket powered by a 3D printed engine.
The students design the engine themselves, and it's comparable to technology big aerospace companies have only recently started to explore. And today marks the culmination of months of work.
I went to bed between, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 in the morning. We're up at 6 in the morning, so I'm kind of running off a couple hours of sleep. We're just getting
DARREN CHARRIER is the incoming president of the UCSD team. He sees 3D printing as the future of rocketry.
Traditionally, these things had to be manufactured by hand. Us as students now have the ability to kind of design it on a computer, send it over to a manufacturer, and it just gets printed off.
Did we get any movement? Yeah. All right, let's check it again.
DIERKING leads the recovery team for UCSD.
We know the engine works. It's more of a question of, will everything work this time?
Throughout the day, one rocket went off after another, as other university teams tested their gear. As the hours ticked by, a specter of unease hung over the San Diego team. They were way behind schedule, and the wind kept picking up. Most of the far old-timers figured the San Diego rocket would fail.
These engineering students have worked their ass off, and they're all excited. And, you know, part of coming out here, it's kind of sad to watch, you know, people get their dreams stomped.
I'll say this about the San Diego team. They listened to the naysayers all day long and stuck to their guns. After hours and hours of delays, the tired, squirrely kids buckled down to see if they could prove the rocket veterans wrong.
3, 2, 1.
In the end, the rocket soared into the sky and flew perfectly. Youth prevailed. Well, mostly. The team's parachute failed to open, which meant the rocket came crashing to the ground. The parachute had been Brian's responsibility, and he took the crash hard. I clearly didn't help his mood.
Oh, there it is. Big cloud of dust.
SEDS on 3! SEDS on 3!
The rest of the team took the experience in stride.
1, 2, 3,
They traveled out to the wreckage with glee and went hunting for souvenirs.
Our parachutes didn't deploy, but that's all right. We got off. That was the main goal of this mission.
And what are you going to do to celebrate?
Well, I think we're going to go back. Maybe I think we're just going to sleep.
Out here in the Mojave, there's testing rockets, and then there's testing rockets.
To be a kick-ass rocket company, you need to test a lot. The folks who succeed are able to iterate quickly.
Many of these young Rocketeers will head here after they graduate. It's the Mojave Airport, which is situated smack dab in the center of Mojave the town. This is where the big kids play with fire. And the pyromaniacs over at Virgin Galactic hope to soon offer tourists a chance to visit space for about $250,000 per ticket, or about twice that on StubHub. George Whitesides is a NASA veteran and serves as the CEO of Virgin Galactic. He gave me a tour of their operations, which includes a test stand for breaking in rocket engines.
Nature does not like what we're trying to do here. The art of this is taking something that nature doesn't want and sort of bending it into an outcome.
Virgin's spaceship will be carried into the air underneath a plane. The spaceship will then fire up its own thrusters and head for the heavens. It's a complex system, and there are few places on Earth where you can work out the kinks.
It's the only place in the United States where you can design, manufacture, and test a rocket motor and then integrate it on a spaceship and fly it into space.
Right.
This is really the frontier of American aerospace.
Virgin wants to offer more than just a joyride. It thinks people visiting space, even for just a few minutes, will have a profound effect on how we all see our planet.
So we've got 700 people, order of magnitude, signed up to go on our spaceship. That's more than the number of people who have ever been to space in 50 years. But they're going to go back to communities all over the world, and they're going to bring that perspective with them. And I think that's going to have a really important effect.
The story of Virgin has been one of great promise and devastating setbacks. In 2014, the company's first spaceship crashed to the ground, killing the co-pilot and injuring the pilot. Today at this press event, Virgin hopes to restore confidence in its technology by unveiling Spaceship 2, Richard Branson's attempt to resurrect the galactic empire from the ashes.
This one has taken more than 10 years. You're still not at the point where we're flying yet. How difficult has this business been compared to your others?
It is rocket science. It is really difficult. We're just reinventing the wheel completely, reinventing the technology. So it's been tough, but we now have rockets that we know will take us to space. We feel confident that we're finally very, very close to being there.
Ever a good and devoted son, Branson decorated the spaceship with his mother's likeness. And ever the good showman, he used the spaceship's unveiling as an excuse to throw a birthday party for his granddaughter. That's a bottle of milk made out of sugar being used for the christening.
In 2014, after the accident, how close were you to calling it?
I don't think I've ever given up on anything in life, but we would have been irresponsible not to ask the questions. The important thing is not to hurry a program like this. The important thing is to get it right and make sure it's safe for people to go up, and that we offer return tickets, not single tickets.
Up next, I take a road trip into the future.
This stuff seemed like science fiction, but it's actually science fact.
And head down the Las Vegas Strip in a self-driving car. It's the sort of invitation you wait a lifetime to receive. Come to the Mojave, he says. We're camping out next to the Trona Pinnacles. They're weird and beautiful, he says. There will be beers and burgers and tequila and a bunch of gearheads and techno freaks hanging out together. We're gonna show you how we're reinventing cars, he says. And we're gonna go spine-crushing fast. This is Mouse McCoy. He's a sort of hot rod renaissance man with a vision. One where the cars of tomorrow are designed by artificial intelligence.
Right now, we're in this phase where, like, this stuff seemed like science fiction, but it's actually science fact. Like, we're living science fact right before our eyes, and to be a part of it just feels good, man.
Mouse grew up in Los Angeles as the son of a pair of producers. He moved up the Hollywood ladder, going from stuntman to action director. But it was his time racing bikes out here as a kid that he said inspired him to come up with a better way to build vehicles.
Growing up out here and racing motorcycles out here, you really understood cost of failure. Like, it was a gnarly place. Like, you're crashing motorcycles as a kid that I feel like was sort of forged out here in a way.
His latest venture is called HACKROD. The goal is to blend human emotion and technology to spur an automotive revolution. To do this, Mouse and his team measure everything they can. They wire up cars with dozens of sensors to see how the metal performs. Then they create 3D maps of their racing courses to figure out exactly how the car behaves. And on top of all that, they strap brainwave monitors on their heads to detect stress. I think it's safe to say that as I strap in for today's test, I'm showing signs of anxiety already.
Hopefully we'll see pure panic in the brain monitor.
The HACKROD team doesn't start with an off-the-shelf car chassis. They use artificial intelligence software to come up with designs and fabricate them on a 3D printer. Design software and new manufacturing techniques have gotten good enough to allow a small group of people to build custom cars from scratch.
We're getting in this mass world where just design decisions are dictated. Your aesthetic is dictated by some corporate strategy somewhere, and it's like, you know, and that was that hot rodder, you know, sort of thing. And a lot of our mission here is going to be about individualization, like having your own design, having your own vehicle.
This is the full car.
FELIX Holst used to oversee the Hot Wheels and Matchbox brands for Mattel. He's a car junkie who quit the Mattel gig to start HACKROD with Mouse.
We think this may be the first chassis that's been engineered with artificial intelligence.
That AI sucks up data collected from the desert field tests. FELIX gives it a few guidelines, and it spits out a body design. You test it, feed the data back in, and get an even better car out. What used to take years and hundreds of engineers can now be done in a matter of months with state-of-the-art tools and a handful of people. Or so HACKROD hopes to prove.
We both come from that kind of hot rod culture, that hacker culture, and we looked at this as like, look, we're not Ford or Ferrari or whoever. We don't have hundreds and hundreds of engineers to start designing a chassis from the ground up. And there's a real democratization of creativity and design going on that we stand for.
This car is called the Mule. It was the first built using HACKROD technology, and it's been utterly abused by Mouse over the course of 3 days. Soon, it will be time to head back to LA and let the computers do their work to replace it with Mule 2.0.
What's your vision for where this company is in like 5 years?
In 5 years, I think we will have been a significant driver in the automatic manufacturing world that's coming.
After spending a couple of days at Trona, getting covered in grease and dust, so much dust, I plotted my escape from the Mojave. My final stop would be Las Vegas. Given the nature of this trip, I couldn't just hop in any old Honda. I needed something special, something that would leave a mark on Sin City. So I hit up an old friend who happens to have his own homemade self-driving car. Problem solved.
We were a couple miles out of Barstow when the acid kicked in.
Where Hunter S. Thompson had Dr. Gonzo as a companion, I have this guy, George Hotz. He comes with less drugs, but plenty of fear and loathing. Hotz became famous as a teenager for hacking everything in sight. He hacked the iPhone, he hacked the Sony PlayStation. He has the legal fees to prove it. And now, he's hacking cars. He stunned the world last year by building this self-driving car by himself in his San Francisco garage in just a couple of months. I visited him back then to see his Acura, packed full of cameras, radars, and artificial intelligence software. Unlike the Teslas and Googles of the world, Hotz doesn't give his car a litany of rules to follow.
You're not gonna do this. All right, I'll help you out a little bit.
He basically just drives the thing, and the car learns to mimic the behavior and does so better and better over time.
Don't get off the exit. Don't do it. I know you want to. I know you want to. I know you see that exit. Oh, good job, car.
Hotz hasn't bested Knight Rider yet, but he has achieved Hasselhoff-esque heights of confidence. Meanwhile, back on the road to Vegas.
Soon, we'll probably be able to drive without radar.
Just using the camera.
Just using a camera, and cameras, like our cell phone. That camera is good enough to drive the car. I could keep bashing everyone like I'm the underdog, but am I really the underdog? I have a working self-driving car.
Not everyone appreciates Hotz's unique brand of gusto. The California DMV, for example, recently told Hotz to quit driving his experiment on the state's roads. This is why we've had to head to the Nevada border, where the true freedom of the Mojave lives on.
We're getting close to the border.
Close to the border. We'll press the button once we hit the border.
Why can't we do it in California?
They don't like innovation. Nevada loves innovation. That's what I heard. Oh, I see the sign. I see the sign.
Prepare to engage.
On your command, Captain.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Nevada.
3,
the Silver State.
2, 1. We are self-driving.
Hotz's car had never seen the Nevada roads before, but it drove perfectly on its own for miles. That is until the desert sun dipped down, casting shadows across the road.
This is actually the worst time of day for it. The contrast is not very good because the sun is so bright still and the road is so dim. And look, you see, no, you can't drive. Wow. Look, I can't see anything in the picture. This is really bad.
What does this make you think? Is this something you can fix over time?
A lot of this has to do with the camera. A lot of the bug right now is just because the camera can't see.
That led to a minor existential crisis by the time we got to Vegas. At which point, Hotz feverishly began trying to debug his autonomous roadster. We'd come all this way to try his car's newest feature, the ability to go hands-free in stop-and-go traffic. But as we inched our way towards the Strip to see if his fixes would work, it seemed like the stress of being a boy genius might be getting to him.
I've been frustrated lately by just a lot of rigmarole and bullshit that comes with this. It's not fun anymore. This was fun when it was me building a car. But once money got involved and expectations got involved, it just became stupid.
As we rounded the corner and the glittering lights came into view, I tried to cheer him up.
Well, let's just see what happens.
It might go too soon. It might go too soon. Oh no, it sees him there. It sees him there. Yeah, go car, go!
Here we go.
Woo! Woo! Don't hit the van! Don't hit the van!
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah, good car. Oh, we got strippers. Does it like strippers? Whoa! Was closer than it should have gone.
Hotz's car passed the test, and his existential angst lifted. The legend of Dr. Hotz lives on.
Feeling better now?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Full autonomy. Haven't disengaged.
It's easy to be cynical these days and knock America. It's the place with the tubby people, who forgot how to make things and who don't like to get their hands dirty anymore. But then, you come somewhere like Mojave and receive a stark reminder that some of America's most endearing elements remain alive and well. It's in the middle of all this nothingness that passion, pure passion, has a chance to thrive. If the cynics want to remain cynical, that's fine. If they don't, they should put on some sunscreen, buy a pair of goggles, and take a trip out to the desert to see what happens when creative adults get a giant playground. Up next on Hello World, I'll trade in the desert for the beaches and rainforest of Australia. I'll go for a swim with a robot, pat a dinosaur, and get my spelunk on.